Bearcats and Bama are absolutely balling. We're talking about college football teams that are going to be heading into the college football playoffs now. Now that we know the matchups that we're going to get, man, I'm really looking forward to these games.
Yeah, no question. I actually really want to watch the Cincinnati Bama one because, this whole season, Cincinnati's been one of those schools outside of the Power 5 schools who's been very competitive over the past couple of seasons. They were really good last year. They lost in their bowl game to Georgia at the end of the season, but it was a competitive game. It wasn't like they got smacked around in the bowl game. And from what I understand, that helped them this year in the rankings. It got them, I think, to start off the season either close to the top 10 or in the top 10. Then Cincinnati goes and beats Notre Dame, I believe at Notre. No, I think it was an away game. I can't remember. But
it was at Notre Dame.
It was at Notre Dame. You're right. They beat Notre Dame, who's now ranked either 5th or 6th. So that's a huge win. That's kind of like a pelt on their wall now that they beat Notre Dame. And then people forget in their conference championship game in the American Athletic Conference, can't believe it's called that now, that they actually beat Houston, who's now ranked 22nd in the country. So some arguments against having Cincinnati in the top 4, I just don't understand because they beat Notre Dame, who's a top 5, top 6 team. They beat another top 25 team in the conference championship game. They've earned their spot in the playoffs. They just have. I mean, I understand, there's arguments about they're going to get killed by Alabama. I mean, Alabama could kind of kill anybody, in the top 25. That doesn't necessarily mean Cincinnati, but they earn their way there. So let's see what happens. I think we need to kind of just lay back as college football fans and say, let's see what Cincinnati can do. They have a really good coach, quarterback's very savvy. I'm looking forward to this game. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. This isn't the indestructible Alabama team we're used to seeing. They're still Alabama. They still played great in the SEC title game, but they're not infallible. I think Young is really, really good, but he's still kind of, he's a sophomore, but this is really his first full college football season as a starter because he was sitting behind Mac Jones as a freshman. So, he still can make mistakes. So I think it's going to be very interesting to see how Cincinnati tries to match up against Alabama in that aspect as well. This is going to be a fun game, and it's very cool to see a team like Alabama, who's, everybody figured would be in the playoffs, and a team like Cincinnati, who's really had to earn their way there, being undefeated. And I think this is a great matchup.
Yeah, I mean, you said it. They're the only team in the top 4 that's even undefeated. So I don't want to hear anybody saying that they don't belong there. They've run the table, man, and they've beat some really good teams, like you said, Notre Dame, Houston. And guess what? All these other college football teams were looking to knock them off and make sure they didn't even get to this point. And they knocked them off as well. This team ran the table. They belong in the college football playoffs, but now's the time when we're going to see if they really belong in the college football playoffs, because now they got to play Alabama, a team that has traditionally been up there, a team that is traditionally a powerhouse legend, right? A multi-championship team. So now it's their team. I've got to give a shout out to Coach Luke Fickell, though, of Cincinnati. Done an amazing job this year, really leading this team, putting them in a position to go and win the title. That's all you can ever want with any team. And they've broke a record. They've made history already by being the first non-Power 5 team to make the college football playoffs. So I'm really excited to see them play in this game against Alabama, an Alabama team that is obviously hitting on all cylinders right now at the right time, coming off a big win against Georgia in the SEC championship, where Bryce Young just looked amazing, man, throwing for basically 350, 400 yards, doing it all, didn't blink an eye. Their defense looked amazing against a number 1 defense in Georgia. So, I mean, I'm really looking forward to seeing a great coach team in Cincinnati with Desmond Ridder, too. Let's not forget Desmond Ridder, the quarterback of Cincinnati, has been amazing this year. So a team that's great coach, great quarterback in Cincinnati against another great coach team that has been a traditional powerhouse with a young, explosive quarterback. This is going to be the best game to watch in the college football playoffs. I've still got to go with Alabama. I've got to give the nod to Alabama, and I've got to give the nod to Georgia. I think we're going to see a rematch of Alabama and Georgia in the national championship game.
Yeah, I think the BCS advisory board agrees with you. That's why they didn't put Georgia as 4th. They put them as 3rd for that very specific reason. They didn't want them matching up again in the first round of the playoffs. But we'll see what happens. If Cincinnati can upset Alabama, it'll be one of the biggest upsets in a long time. and they will certainly have earned it heading into the national championship game if they are able to upset Alabama. But we'll see. We got almost a month to talk, not a month, but probably like 3 weeks to talk about it, as those two playoff games are happening on New Year's Eve. But that's going to do it, folks, for topic number 4